A friend of mine celebrated a milestone recently, and I put her picture on my status and wrote congratulations. A few days later, she sends me a message and says, Emmanuel, you didn't even send me a congratulatory message. And I called her and said, I put your picture on my WhatsApp status. It was at that point I realized how much I have changed. I wasn't like that before. I think I've interacted with Gen Z too much, and I'm beginning to behave like them. You know, these days we do everything we want to do for people on social media, especially on important days like Valentine's Day. Every lover is trying to show the whole world how much they love and celebrate the people that they are in love with. And they expend a lot of energy in doing that. On my last birthday, a lot of people posted me on their status, but I received very few messages in my DMs. I think my bank sent me one, my insurance, my life insurance scheme sent me one, and one or two other people. You know, these days we even take our files to social media. Instead of carrying your phone and calling whoever it is you're having a problem with and tell them a piece of your mind, you decide to just put it on social media. As a couple will do a video, another will do a video to respond, another will do a video to respond, another will do a video to respond, and it's very, very interesting. Now, I'm not about to say I have a problem with that. I don't think it's in my place to have a say in how people express themselves. I believe everyone should be able to express himself via whatever channel he feels most comfortable. I personally have more of a sociological mindset. I appreciate society in the way it evolves and everything that happens in it. So if you're more comfortable expressing your love to your partner on social media, by all means do that. If you're more comfortable fighting on social media, by all means do that. Where there is a problem is when you begin to take your relationship with God like that. While our society is an evolving society, heaven is not an evolving society. I mean, God Himself said that I am the same today, tomorrow, and forevermore. And so, what I did not like yesterday, there is no chance I will like it tomorrow. And the things I say are wrong 10,000 years ago, 100 million years from now, they will still be wrong because I don't change. I am not evolving. And in Matthew 6, Jesus teaches that your relationship with God must always be on a personal note. And while your partner might appreciate you, doing stuff for her and putting it on social media, God doesn't. He says in Matthew 6 that if you're doing your charitable deeds, make sure you're not doing it in such a way that people will see. If you're praying, make sure you're not praying in such a way that people will know that you're praying. That you should make sure that whatever it is you're doing stays between you and Him. It's kind of like a secret love affair, and He does not appreciate you kissing and telling. Now, I see it a lot on social media. People recording themselves pray, people recording themselves in service, people recording themselves doing one or two things in church. The other day, I saw a guy recording himself help one woman sell drinks. You see it online almost all the time. Some people just walk up to someone that is homeless, give him a lot of money. Now, naturally, all these contents get likes and comments on social media. I watch them. I love them. It's really, really heartwarming. But the challenge is, Jesus said, I hope the likes and the comments are enough for you, because if you're expecting that you're going to get another reward from heaven for doing all that, it's not coming. It's not coming. Now, I know our churches have PR departments, but heaven does not have one. And this is a rather sensitive thing to talk about for me, because I work in the media department in church. And I want to balance this out, right? I don't think there's anything wrong in letting people outside know what happens within the four walls of the church. It's PR. We're trying to market what's happening in the church to people and make it more appealing for them to come. But where there's a problem is when all of your service for God is documented and used as PR. Then I think there is a problem with that, because even advertisers, right, the food that they use for advertisement, they don't really eat it. That's because sometimes they have to put some things on it, maybe polish it with some form of oil or whatever to make the food look more appealing, but it's not the one that they consume. And I think you should approach it like that. Like, okay, so there's this thing that I am doing and it's just PR to invite people to church, and then when the likes and the comments and all that are gone, I go into the secret place between me and my God, and we have our one-on-one. Another very important thing I want us to talk about from Matthew chapter 6 is what Jesus said about prayer. He said, when you want to pray, you go into your room, of course, and pray. Your Father can hear you and all that. But then the second part, He says something like, when you're praying, don't use vain repetitions and just like the heathens do, thinking that by your many words they're going to get you. And I remember an experience I had one time. I was in this church and we were praying. It was a prayer meeting. And the pastor is a very, very energetic person. He likes to pray, with lots of energy. And he looked at me that day, and I wasn't praying with a lot of energy. And so he walks up to me and says, "Pray." And I'm like, I am praying. He said, "No, pray." And I was like, "Sir, I am praying." And he just doesn't seem to be impressed with the way I was praying. And he calls another brother and tells the brother to come and help me pray. And the brother is taller than me, and he holds my hand, and he's praying and praying and spitting on me. It was a very embarrassing moment for me, especially because I wasn't praying to him. I don't know why he has a problem with the way I was praying. That's one. And secondly, even though I began praying energetically, but the focus of my prayer had changed. I was no longer praying to God. I was just praying just to impress Him. Now, whether to pray out loud or pray quietly, I think it's dependent on the burden in the heart of the person. I personally, I have done both kinds, right? Sometimes I pray out loudly, sometimes I pray quietly. The main thing is just for me to be able to communicate with God efficiently. I usually wake up before my wife to pray. And I am actually very, very intentional about praying quietly because I don't want my prayer to wake her up. I remember one day after praying, she was telling me that she prayed all the prayer points I prayed with me and was even singing the worship songs. And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" She said she could hear me from the living room. Now, I was intentional about praying quietly, but I think the burden in my heart that day was so heavy, or it was so pressing, I didn't know that I was loud. But then if you're trying to pray and you're intentionally trying to pray out loud so people will know you're praying, or you're trying to, be very, very energetic, Jesus says, what, it's not all this gymnastics. Even before you started praying, He knows what you want, right? Even before you lay out your complaint, God already knows. And so it's not by the way you shout, neither is it by how quietly or how gentle you pray. He already knows. And I think what is more important is that you pray the way the Spirit is leading you to pray. So for you to look at the way another person is praying, and because he's not praying the way you will usually pray, and then you invalidate his prayer, that to me is very, very wrong. I will not say there's a right way or the wrong way to doing it, but just because somebody doesn't do it the way you do does not make the person's own wrong. The underlying theme in what Jesus was saying in Matthew 6 is, don't do Christianity to impress people. Whatever it is you're doing, whether you're giving, whether you're preaching, whether you're teaching, whether you're serving in church, don't do it to impress people. Do it to impress Him. Don't be a humble and submissive woman in church and be a rebel at home. Don't be a loving and a warm man outside and be a monster at home. And that is the action point for today. Don't try to impress earth, try to impress heaven. Don't try to impress man, because man does not have what it takes to reward you sufficiently for your service. Try to impress God, because He is the only one that can reward you. And that concludes Match with Jesus Day 6. We'll be back tomorrow with the 7 of the challenge when we have commentary on Matthew 7. See you then.